Okay, hello everybody. I hope this is streaming. This is only my third stream, and since my last post, I don't even remember the date, but since my last post, I had quite a few things happen. So I'm gonna take a few minutes to update everybody. I got my first warning from YouTube because apparently uh, I offered my opinion on um, vaccinations, so I gotta watch it. Um, no more opinions on my vaccinations and the vax or the pokes or the whatever little buzzwords we can come up with. But I know they're gonna watch this, so hey, YouTube people, all I'm doing is letting them know that I offered my opinion on the jabs, the pokes, and you guys gave me my first warning. So there you have it. I get another one, I get a strike, and you get, punished. And hey, you know, so much for freedom of speech. Anyway, uh, I might get my first strike for that. Anyway, um, also since that time, my first or second post, I received a diagnosis or better clarification of a diagnosis of beta cell lymphoma cancer, which has had me on disability, um, leave from work, and pretty much disabled, period, um, since May 9th. Since May 9th. So, been going through treatment or getting started with treatment sometime soon. And I guess a part of that whole update is kind of like what one topic I wanted to talk about today is pushing through mental barriers, pushing through mental barriers. Yeah, going at it with my 18-year-old daughter. The ones that know everything, that generation, and pushing through mental barriers, whether it's physically induced, whether it's health wise, um, mentally induced, socially. When people or conditions per se, like in your work environment, and policies or things, hey, they try to limit what you can do and what you're capable of. Um, and sometimes these barriers have to be challenged. Sometimes they have to be challenged. What I'm discovering about cancer is that initially it's like receiving a knockout blow. It's like you get hit, or I got hit. I didn't even see it coming. I didn't even know I was in the ring. I didn't even know I was in a fight, and something just hit me. And I'm staggered. That's how it was. I staggered into the hospital. I staggered because my equilibrium was totally off. My energy, my legs were, totally weak. Gone. It's like something hit me, and I had no clue. And then after a while, like it's not a knockout blow initially, but you're still in the ring. You haven't been knocked out, but it's still begin to get your legs back. You begin to come to a little bit and begin to realize you're in a fight. And so my body's been slowly bouncing back on its own. You know, up to this point, the only thing the medical fraternity's really done is take tons of blood, ultrasounds, PET scans, CAT scans, MRIs, and rule things out. And when they're taking blood, because of the rule out process, they assume you have something. And so they start treating it with their antibiotics. And in the end, I got a whole lot of antibiotics that I did not need, but end up paying for, right? You know, the American insurance system. You're going to pay for everything. 11 days in that hospital, I'm going to be billed for that. All those days of medication that I didn't need, I'll be billed for that. Which is really kind of sad because you would think that where else other than in the medical field where if you pay for services that don't produce results or that are not needed, we're only in the medical field. Can you not return it? Can you not say, hey, I'm not happy with this. I'm not satisfied with the quality of this service. I refuse to pay for that. No, not in the medical field. So they gave me days and days of medication that I did not need. But I'm going to have to pay for that. And so going through that whole process and beginning to get to a point with this cancer or whatever the condition you may be going through, and you begin to realize you're in a fight and you begin to stabilize, you begin to realize this is my norm for right now. I have a new norm. Um, when the pandemic first came out, a lot of people that underestimated how long it was going to be around, they refused to use the term new norm. We're in a new norm. Well, unfortunately, we have a new norm now, wearing masks and getting boosters, and doing home testing kits and all of that. This is a totally new norm. Social distancing. And the same thing with overcoming these barriers, overcoming these challenges in our lives. When you realize you've been hit by something, you realize that you're in a fight and it's taken your resources. And it took me some time to kind of like rewire myself to kind of first, get over the shock, get over the depression that my quality of life. And when I say that, please know that I've been an avid runner of marathon and half marathons uh, since, see, 1990, since 1995. And I've run tons of smaller races, 5 milers being the most frequent or most volume of races I've run. But I have 6 half marathons, 5 marathons, and a host of 10Ks, 5Ks, but most often I've run is 5 miles. So I've enjoyed pretty reasonable athletic and recreational lifestyle, and it was just snatched from me. And so, as much as I wanted to deny it, I began to realize I was slightly depressed and I was angry. But this was a part of getting to my new norm. And as I was discharged on May 20th, and with nothing more than an outpatient appointment for bone marrow uh, biopsy and directions to take Tylenol to control my fever. And the fever, and it was one of the first signs that my body is fighting back because after about 3 days at home and living off of Tylenol, my appetite began to come back, my taste for water began to come back, and my fever went away. I no longer had to take Tylenol. And that's my point. is whatever these barriers are, I can tell you that pushing through these mental and physical barriers, one of the things that was very important is to have support, to have healthy relationships and people in our lives that are going to walk with these tragedies, these calamities with you. Because what a healthy relationship really represents between people is a reciprocity of energy. And when I say energy, I literally mean energy. There's a social work concept of law of reciprocity. Um, when we do echo maps and we show the relationships with people that are closest to us and those that are not as close, and we show by certain different types of lines who you're investing energy in, but also who is returning it. And is it a positive energy that they're returning? If you're investing positive, there should be reciprocity in a healthy relationship. You receive positive energy. So when these challenges and barriers are presented to us, if we lack healthy relationships to walk through them, and the challenge and the tragedy or the calamity has already taken some of your energy, it is a lot harder to push through the barriers that they create. And so, this is why having healthy relationships is so important. You never know when this world, people, or life is going to present you with a calamity and a disaster and or a tragedy that is going to usurp or deplete your internal resources and your energies. So I'm grateful that my wife and my kids, um, family, siblings, and extended family, uh, AA, fellowship, and friends, and even Shrine of Ma'at, which I am now a full member of the Shrine of Ma'at, and my family members from all of these relationships just poured and continued to pour and continue to send myrrh, they send love, they send energy, and this has helped. And then I had to realize that in receiving all this energy, what really makes it effective is when I got my attitude more positive and ref- or chose to push back against the restrictions and the restraints on my lifestyle that this cancer had taken. It had pushed me, it had limited me, it had confined me to this lifestyle of small spaces, such as my bedroom and the couch in the living room, or maybe if I'm lucky, sitting out on the outside porch. And as I began to change my attitude and utilize the energy that I was receiving, along with what energy I was generating, my attitude changed, and I slowly began to, not so much I'm going to fight it. You know, I don't know so much if this is about a fight. This is about, in a way, just it has an energy, and I need more. And I need more in order to push back and retain the quality of life. And this challenge and pushing through this also has added a meaning to my life that I did not have. So in some ways, this challenge, I would never wish cancer on anybody. And I lucked out, from what I understand, lymphoma, which I have a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis, is one of the most treatable and a highly higher success rate of response to treatment than a lot of other cancers. So for that, I'm grateful, you know. But it's added a new meaning. It's made me more aware of value of time, of relationships, and of spiritual growth, and finding an inner strength, a spiritual strength, and a mental strength. And I think this is very, very important that we recognize that these things that challenge us, these things that put up these barriers, that in some strange way, they give us opportunities for growth and to come out of them stronger and better. Maybe I'll never be as strong physically. I may never run another half marathon or marathon in my life, but I will be stronger mentally. I will be stronger emotionally. I will be stronger spiritually. And I will have more value on time, on relationships, on health, on my diet, on my connection to all of the other energies that exist within this universe and that run to and through me and through us. So this has been some of my latest insights in response to this diagnosis. Now, I want to take this time to segue from out of that, and that's enough talk about that. We're 17 minutes in. I think I want to go about maybe another 13 or so minutes. So the next subject or topic or experience, is a little more, believe it or not, it's actually a little more emotionally charged. And it also, in a way, represents pushing through barriers. Um, I recently, especially over the last 6 years, I've grown and finally overcome. And I think I'm still growing in this area and still overcoming and still growing with courage. And I'm still finding my voice and the courage to express my voice. And when I say my voice, and that also includes another concept of being visible, because you can be heard and be invisible. But when you're visible and you have a voice, then you can be accountable. You can, you're going to be confronted. You're going to have to support your views, your stance, your positions, and there can be dialogue and there can be debate with the opponents and or the allies. But just trying to have a voice and being visible is almost a little cowardly. So finding the courage to be visible and have my voice is a reflection of the healing that has taken place in the last 6 years sober. And it started with a calling to be my genuine and authentic self. And I stopped getting my hair cut because of that calling. 6 years ago, I stopped getting it cut. I like my hair long. I like it in afro. I'm going to wear it until I go bald or whatever. But this is the way I'm most comfortable being me. Um, and believe it or not, I was 55 years old and 25 years sober, and I still wasn't comfortable being Curtis Jackson, light skinned guy, green eyes, and with a brownish blonde, especially when the sun is out, afro. I'm still trying to, suffering from the illusion of inclusion and trying to conform to the aesthetic values of a society that is does not reflect the Afrocentric worldview that I have, and also the same thing with my own people. You know, because not all of our people reflect it either, to be honest, and we call that a colonized mind. So this journey started, and thank you to social media, Facebook, YouTube. I'm not in with TikTok. I don't do Twitter. I got a couple different things, Instagram, Telegram, Duo. But I posted a few things recently that reflect, and not just my opinion, but what I've observed, and I believe a lot of you have observed as well, is there is an awakening taking place amongst the consciousness of people of color, indigenous people of color all around this globe. And particularly, or my focus is, Afrocentrism, Pan Africanism, whatever you want to call it, especially for us here in America who have been separated from our ancestors. And I just want to say briefly, I just want to divert a little bit for 1 second. Whether we are descendants of slaves or whether or not we are descendants of Africans that were already here with the indigenous tribes of the Cherokee, Seminoles, Apache. It doesn't make a difference. People really need to stop that argument, because if Negroes, African people were here one way or the other, you're still African. You're still African. If you were here before the transatlantic slave trade, you're still African. Your roots go back to Africa. So please stop this fighting amongst ourselves, us that are descendants of Africans that were here one way or the other, because all it does is continue to perpetuate the conditions that made us easy to be divided and conquered by other races, especially Europeans and Arabs. So stop it. Stop it and wake up. Now, getting back to this. So, yeah, I began this journey, and I began to attract people and knowledge. And there's a big difference between knowledge, information, and education. There's a big difference. Those three words. Maybe we'll get into that later. But the point is, I began to attract people that were bringing a little bit of everything: education, information, and knowledge. People that were pointing me into resources that began to help me get the knowledge, information, and education that I needed to become more visible and find my voice. Now, I've been sober in AA now for 31 years. But here's the thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. Even though It is a 12-step fellowship that is in response to the global disease of alcoholism. That arena is relatively minuscule and compared to the arena or the context of the global condition and historic and episodic condition of the colonization of people of color over the last 2,000 years. So, in finding my voice in this smaller arena of AA, I made tons of friends: white, black, Asian, Indian, African, Jamaican. Don't make no difference. Alcoholism, I mean, there's drunks everywhere. Ain't drunks everywhere. The disease does not discriminate. What I recently encountered was that as I became more visible and my visibility and my character began to reflect the growing change and impact of this Afrocentric, hidden African ancestry, hidden African ancestry. And forgive me for not having on my Ankh, my Kepra, and hold on, let me find this. I keep forgetting what crystal this is, but I received this crystal through one of our ceremonies, and I have another item that I received through our ceremonies. And I am now a full member of the Shrine of Ma'at. And I learned the difference between knowledge for knowledge's sake versus knowledge for God's sake. I learned a totally revolutionary, different understanding and conception of God than I had previously before knowledge of Wu Sabat, the Nuwapian culture, and then eventually the Shrine of Ma'at. And as this knowledge began to transform me, and I began to reflect the culture and practice the culture of my ancient African ancestors, now my visibility began to reflect that consistency. My spirituality was in harmony with my African ancestry, and my voice grew with a message way bigger than the small arena of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I began to become more aware of this global awakening, this universal awakening that's taken place all across the globe. And we see this everywhere. And unfortunately, one of the negative signs of this awakening is there's resistance. There's resistance to people of color waking up. Why? Because if people of color wake up and if they begin to see that they have colonized minds, they've been bamboozled, hoodwinked, and they begin to see the perpetrators of this continue to perpetuate systemic mechanisms of oppression and discrimination based on greed and control of resources. Okay? They begin to wake up. It becomes a threat to their control of the resources. And so we have seen more shootings, more mass shootings. We have seen more police brutality. We have seen politics and actually endorse politicians. We've seen things take place that is endorsing resistance to oppressed people waking up and finally moving toward holding the perpetrators of these human rights violations and injustices accountable. And so I posted a few things on Facebook, which I have over 1,000 something friends. And have you ever noticed that when you post some bull crap on Facebook, you post, black people doing funny stuff. You post sports stuff. You post comedians, maybe Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. You post goofy stuff, stuff that is meaningless. Get a billion views from your people and other people. I posted some real talk stuff. I put up a post of a First Nation, and I don't know the tribe, but they had a press conference. And two ladies, and one in particular, really had to check one of the reporters, female, that was out of line. And this leader, this female leader of this indigenous tribe, she told it how it really is, man. She told him the truth. For 524 years, you have had your voice, you have been visible, and we have not. She told him straight up. So I posted that. And then a few days later, I posted another news report that the college called George Washington, they're changing and dropping their name Colonials because the moniker is synonymous and significant of the colonization of Europeans, the colonization by Europeans of people of color, indigenous people of color. And they're dropping the moniker. Kind of like what the Cleveland Indians changed their name to Cleveland Guardians. The Washington Redskins, they changed their name to Washington Commanders. All of this is a sign that people of color are waking up and they're saying no more. They're saying we have been invisible and we haven't had a voice. So here comes Curtis Jackson with all these great AA friends. And, everybody loves Curtis as long as he's talking and endorsing and in conformity with the Euro Christian, Eurocentric worldview. The minute Curtis Jackson puts some things out there talking about this global awakening and talks about it from an Afrocentric worldview, whoa, want to talk about exposing the snakes. And whenever you have a snake in your garden, you think your garden is good. Oh, that snake represents a healthy ecological system. No. You cut the grass or you change the environment in the garden a little bit, and you see this is a poisonous snake. You change the environment a little bit, and the snake raises its head. You got to cut it off because it's not healthy for that ecological environment. And that's how the conditions of my conditions for friendship have changed within the last 48 hours. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your worldview is. I don't care if you're coming from white, Asian, Sikh, Filipino, Russian. I don't care. Chinese. I don't care. We can get along fine as long as you reciprocate the respect that I give you for our differences and right to have our different worldviews. When you can't reciprocate that and you try to control the narrative of my voice to keep me invisible, see ya, you gotta go. You gotta go. And I don't even wish you no hate. And that was one of the other things. I got to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you all the truth. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. I went to school after Martin Luther King was shot. I grew up on the south side of Pittsburgh. And if anybody's watching this and you know about the south side of Pittsburgh, it is a predominantly white community. I grew up in that community. I grew up on the hillside. My schools were down in what we call the flats. My high school was on 10th and Carson, and my elementary school called Phillips was down on 20th and Sarah. And these are facts. And I have tons of white friends I grew up with. Tons. Now, I was chased. We sometimes had to fight our way to school and fight our way home. I was discriminated against by a racist white first grade teacher by the name of Miss Davidson, who used to take me from my chair, bring me up front, and make me sit like a dog right next to her in front of the whole class. She did this several times. So much so that I failed the first grade. There's no doubt in my mind now why I failed the first grade. It was traumatizing. Preschool was great. Kindergarten was great. I still remember Miss Wagner, redheaded, from kindergarten. I remember her. Great, beautiful. First grade, horrible. Horrible. And so I say this to say there was no social workers there to give us counseling and therapy for the trauma of being chased to school and having to fight your way to school and find home. We had to travel in packs, man. You weren't there caught alone. You're caught alone. You're beat up. There was no therapy for us. And it, oh, turn the other cheek. It's over. Forget about it. No. No. They ain't doing that now, are they? So it would only be human for me to have some anger. All this concept of forgive, forget, turn the other, oh, it's over. It's in the past. It's this, it's that. You can't tell me about how to deal with whatever emotional baggage or vestiges or residue I may be carrying from my life experiences and then try to take my voice and silence me? No. Those days are over. They're over. So what happens? I get a so-called friend. Been a good friend for over 20 something years in AA, who continues to try to push his Christian narrative, his big book narrative. Oh, it's all about love and acceptance. Hey, bro, for my people, love and acceptance hasn't done anything for us. Truth of the matter is, waiting for whenever somebody's religion says somebody's coming back ain't done anything to stop the continued, not just systemic stuff. And when I say systemic mechanisms, just look at the mass incarceration of the 80s. Look at what Reagan signed into law, the law and order. Look at what Bill Clinton signed into order, the three strike laws. Look at the rise of the prison industrial complex, at a rise of these laws that created law enforcement. Look at how crack cocaine and weapons were dumped into urban environments here on purpose. These are facts. YouTube, these are facts. I might get a warning for this. If I get the next warning, I'm going to be on strike. So they might just ban me, you know. But I believe these things have been confirmed, especially the crack cocaine epidemic. You know, they got a whole TV series called Snowfall, The Wire, all of these things. This is common knowledge. And so I survived all of that. And on top of the systemic stuff, African Americans and people of color, we pay higher insurance rates. We get charged higher interest for banking and loans and mortgages and personal loans and car loans. We're considered a higher risk because of our income if we live in a so-called urban environment and the color of our skin. These are facts. The criminal justice laws, there's no justice in the criminal justice system for us. You get a ruling here every now and then. Okay, that's cool. But there's so much that goes. I mean, Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman, stand your ground laws. Think about this. What does it represent? It represents that systemic mechanisms of racial oppression and discrimination are still alive and well. Oh, my daughter's up to her tricks. So you have all this still going on, and you have people waking up. You also have unaccountability. You have a distortion of history. The American educational system did not teach the truth about American history, world history, and definitely not African and Black people's role in history. They did not do that. And that's why there's so much resistance to critical race theory. They don't want to face the truth. And this is a country that champions itself as as a champion for human rights across the globe. But yet you can't get honest and make amends, make restitution, make reparations for the harms you've done to indigenous First Nations people who are on reservations with more addiction and alcoholism than any other rate of people in this country, who have to resort to gambling and creating casinos in order to bring income to support their people. And there's no one that could deny this is their land. Who could deny that the Europeans, the Pilgrims, they spread and broke every treaty? Now, YouTube, this is a fact. You go look it up. Don't give me no strike for telling the truth. That these are facts. And if I have to start going back there and showing and finding what treaties were created by the Union that they broke, that continually took their land off them, then I will do that. This isn't just speculation and opinion. And just because I'm not presenting the actual treaties, don't go giving me a strike for telling what we all know is true. So I make two posts. I use my voice to say, hey, if America is ever expecting to start the healing that it needs for all of us to get along, they have to take accountability for the wrongs that they've done and the systemic mechanisms of racial oppression that are still in existence. As Michelle Alexander would say, the new Jim Crow. And then this dude that I've been friends with wants to jump on my post, which is an arena outside of AA. Now, when I go out to where he lives and I speak a lot out there, and I give a great AA lead, as long as I'm speaking what's in conformity with their worldview and in that small arena, AA and the 12 steps, right? We have singleness of purpose. Oh, great, Kurt, you're a great guy. But the minute I talk about my worldview and what's going on in my culture, my people, and other people of color, now you want to try to impose your worldview and say, just accept, have patience, love, and tolerance. Bro, a lot of people that aren't of our culture, they could never empathize with the hurt, the anger, the hate, and the double consciousness that we have to deal with every day. Every day, no matter where I go, the minute I step out of my house and I run into, especially European people of European descent, white people, you know what I have to constantly think? Even as I'm driving, you know what I have to think? Not only do I have to think about what I'm thinking, I have to think about what they're thinking about me. It's called double consciousness. How am I going to respond in order to avoid some kind of confrontation? You know, it's not so much today about acceptance. I don't need their approval. It's about how do you avoid confrontation? There's a new term called Karens. You know, you got male Karens, you've got female Karens. They're everywhere because of a sense of entitlement and privilege because of their race, their color of their skin. And this is the type of stress that I and many other people of color, we carry this every day. So the last thing in the world that I'm going to give up now is my voice and my visibility to speak about what I experience, what I have experienced, what I am experiencing. And if we want to talk about a solution, fine. You know, all of that, you know, Rodney King, can't we all just get along? You know, no, we can't until healing and amends is made. So the last thing in the world I can do is call somebody a friend. And I don't care what color you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what ethnicity you are. I don't care what culture you're coming from. You cannot be a friend of mine if you can't reciprocate respect for my voice and my view. Can't do it. And I would encourage and suggest anybody out there that may watch this and see that you do the same. Take a look. You really want to see who your friends are? Express some of your worldview. And I'm saying especially if they're people of different race and ethnicity than you. And you know some of the stuff you're holding on to because we all do it. When my people, when we're amongst each other, we all have these conversations about white people. We know these differences in our cultures. We're not going to say that in front of them. And you know what they do when they're all together? They have their people, their conversations about us, black people. They're not going to say that in our face. So we all just need to stop acting like this doesn't exist. Because we ain't never going to get better. We ain't never all really going to get along. We ain't never really all going to have genuine, healthy friendship and respect for each other unless we can talk openly about our different worldviews and respect each others' worldview. And for those that have been perpetrators and or benefactors from the oppression of the past and today, stand up. Don't sit there on the sidelines and continue to be silent with your voice. If you know it's wrong, you get out there and march and talk with us. You don't see too many that are willing to do that. Behind closed doors, they'll support you. Behind closed doors, they'll offer empathy and support. They're not going to risk their life. And when you find those that do, you better cherish them because they're far few and in between. All right. Went a little longer than I thought. Now, I just have to hope that that I didn't cross any barriers, that this doesn't get me my first strike, and then I find out what type of punishment YouTube may give me. And if they do, I'm just going to use another platform. That's all. That's all. So, um, the flip side of this all is it's really positive because it's about having knowledge for God's sake and understanding an Afrocentric African spirituality concept of God, and realizing that when you begin to get this knowledge and it begins to transform the way you see yourself, the world, and people in it, and you begin to live a culture that was hidden from you, you're going to find your voice, and your visibility is going to reflect. It's going to reflect, man, the wisdom, the guidance, the knowledge of your ancestors, man. That's a beautiful thing. Other races do it. They honor their ancestors. Look at the dollar bill. Who's on those bad boys? They're honoring their ancestors with our symbols. Turn the dollar bill over. Look at the pyramid. That's ours. Look at the Eye of Ra, Eye of Horus. That's ours. And our symbols are everywhere. And that's fact. That's fact. So this is not a let me cry and complain. I'm saying to y'all over the last 48 hours, man, for me, this is liberating. And I want to encourage everybody to find your true, genuine, and authentic self. Don't be bamboozled into the aesthetics that this Euro-Christian American society is saying. This is what's beautiful. This is what success is, and this is how you should look. This is how you should talk. No, better get a DNA test kit, do whatever. Better find out where your genes are from, and embrace that. Now I ain't stupid. I'm 47.8% Nigerian, 9 point something percent Sierra Leone, 7 point something percent Kenyan. I got so much stuff in me, it ain't funny. And obviously, because of the color of my skin, I definitely have. There's Eastern European, there's Baltic, there's Iberian, Ashkenazi Jewish, 2%, Mesoamerican, Andes Mountains in South America, but 75% of me is African. Thank goodness. Be your genuine and authentic self and don't worry about what people think. That's a beautiful thing when you wake up to who you truly are and you know yourself. That's an African proverb. Know thyself. That's an African proverb. It's carved in the wall of the pyramids. Know thyself. And our ancestors knew that our truth was going to be hidden. They knew this. That's why they wrote it in stone. Know yourself, because everybody else knows their self. So know yourself. Shem and Hotep, everybody. Shem and Hotep. Until the next time, hopefully it'll be soon. And hopefully I don't get a strike and get booted. If so, look for me on Facebook. Curtis Jackson on Facebook if I get booted. Shimon Hotep, Anka Ma'at.